Hey guys, it's Devon.
And Victoria.
And we're wishing you Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And it's
Happy
not very cold
holidays.
here because we're at Disneyland.
Oh, we're in California. Suckers, we have no snow.
Alright, now your regularly scheduled episode.
Okay, bye guys.
Hey everybody, we're fresh back from Disneyland. I'm Devon Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzer.
I'm Echo.
I'm Victoria.
And Victoria.
And you're watching episode 75 of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. That's a lot of episodes, Victoria.
That is almost as many episodes as Odyssey if you add another 9.
0 to it.
Another 9 at the end.
So yeah, we are 3/4 of the way to 100 episodes. That is pretty exciting. We've been doing this for a long time.
I feel old.
I know, right? You. I feel so old all the time.
You are old.
I am.
Yeah.
It's horrifying.
You're
Look at
horrifying.
Me.
You're so
what
old.
What are we talking about today, Victoria?
How old you are, apparently.
What else?
Big Commitment and Dinner role models.
Correct.
Are you proud of me for remembering the names?
I am.
I am too. I didn't think I would.
It's been a whole 30 seconds you've remembered them since I last said them.
Good job, know. Victoria. I can't believe. I actually didn't think I'd remember them.
So there's no new news at the moment, and so we'll turn you right over to those reviews right now. And we're back now, talking about A Big Commitment. Okay, episode 779, written by Paul McCusker. Do you want to first give what happens in the episode, Victoria?
Yeah. So, I might need a little bit of help because I listened to it like a week ago. So in this episode, Penny and Wooten are going through some commitment difficulties. Penny doesn't think that Wooten will stay committed to her. Connie thinks that Penny and Wooten won't stay committed to her as a friend and they'll abandon her if they end up hooking up. And we find out who the culprit was. Who it was, I'm still not entirely convinced.
Yeah.
I'll talk about that later. It was Vance's dad who was stealing all the money. I'm not sure if I believe that, but yeah, and no Buck in this one, which
sadly.
made me sad. And that's basically it. Oh yeah, Penny was once engaged, and Devon and I are horrible people.
28 years for my name to be mentioned on this show. And I turn out to be Penny's scumbag ex who broke her heart and emotionally scarred her for life.
So get this. Wooten's ex is named Victoria, and Penny's ex is named Devon.
Yeah!
We are awful people.
It took me a while. It took me a while to think, because I was always bitter that you've appeared on the show twice, and I'd never appeared on the show.
Yeah, wait, who's the other? Oh yeah, Victoria!
Yeah, oh darling! Yeah, from Selflessly Devoted. But your main appearance...
You never told me you were bitter?
Was in Wooing Wooten, and I was so
you. Why
bitter.
Didn't you tell me?
And then I finally show up, and it took me a while to realize that then both of us were Penny and Wooten.
Both of us are scumbag characters, Devon.
Well,
except for now, I'm a scumbag twice.
Victoria was nice, but she just wasn't right for Wooten. But the fact that Penny and Wooten, that both of them have like an ex named after us.
So this can be one of those moments where I talk about what I was doing while I was listening to it. So I'm pretty sure, as with lots of these episodes, I was getting myself some food while listening to it. So I was just like putting some food on my plate to warm it up. What?
You seem to do that a lot.
It's because I listen to Odyssey while I eat dinner.
That's
it's a good time to listen to it because, I don't know, it's when it works best for me. So I was like getting food on my plate, and then all of a sudden I heard like my ex-fiance Devon, and then I just like dropped my fork and I'm like, what does it mean?
After album 55, where there were like specific like shout outs to Bren McFarlane and to Mark Redicop, how they both got their names dropped in an episode, the Riddle one with Emily, the Riddle in the Locker.
Yeah. And
so it was like shout out to them because they're fans, and then my name appears as this, and I was like, Paul, are you taking a dig at me? Is this because we disagree about marriage equality on Facebook, and now you're like saying mean things about me in episodes?
This is your punishment. And yeah.
Can't help but wonder. But yeah, I mean, despite the fact that I'm an awful human being, I was so excited that after 28 years, I'm finally in the show, even though I still don't have a voice. So now I have to appear. Devon has to appear on the show. Yes, I need to have a voice, Victoria. You got a voice both times.
Yeah, I'm better than you.
I wanna know what.
I'm stronger than you.
So let's rewind back to the beginning of the episode. More build up for the Let's Get Together festival, and it's like, wow, it is happening the weekend of the current week in this episode.
Yeah.
Which means that the rest of this album is all going to be happening in quite a short period of time.
Mm-hmm. Especially since we think the Let's Get Together episode is going to be the finale.
Exactly, yeah. So that's a short amount of time. Granted, there's only 2 episodes left between now and then, in between, because this is episode 3 of 6 already. Mm-hmm. I get where Connie's coming from, recognizing that the decision about the proposal affects more people than just Penny and Wooten. But at the beginning, like, as soon as I heard it, I was like, to be quite honest, she sounded pretty selfish to be complaining about the strain it's putting on her, that her 2 best friends are taking so long to figure out one of the biggest decisions of their lives. I'm so sorry, Connie, that it's, so emotionally straining
Connie,
for you.
I'm so sorry. It's because we all know you've been perfect in your relationships and figuring out...
Yeah, you've never put emotional strain on anyone else, not when you made everyone travel out to Washington, D.C. for a wedding that didn't happen.
For a not wedding.
Yeah. Also, her third wheel feelings were awfully reminiscent of that first night at Uncle Archie's carnival right after Penny and Wooten first met.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got that too.
It was like flashback.
Just kind of a flash forward in the episode. I was so uncomfortable when she started kind of conversations. Like when she first started talking, like again, I was getting food. So I was just standing there and I'm just like, abort, no, stop. What are you doing? And then I'm like, Connie, stop. Like the second she started, she's like, normal families.
Oh yeah, we're not there.
Sitting there and I was like, yet, Devon's gonna be so angry. Yeah. I was actually kind of angry, but then when she kept on talking, I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we get to Wooten, who sounds like, wow, he sounds very surprisingly not emotionally broken up about bulldozing down the remains of his house. So I guess he is fully over that now. He was all like, woohoo!
I think he kind of got over it in the
big
first
trucks
episode
backing
of
up.
the season.
Beep, beep, beep.
I think he got over it with the whole Miss Kramer thing.
Yeah, I think she kind of picked him up by the lapels and shook him.
She's so mean. I don't like her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I still think, it could be tied back to Mistaken for Good, which we will have talked about in that review, which came out in the past, but won't be recorded for another hour.
Jay just ruined everything.
Okay, so, and now apparently we're starting to fully intercut the plots of the first 2 episodes, because the episode cuts from Wooten abruptly to Eugene and Detective Davidson. And it's like, man, it was really hard to keep track of that play-by-play color commentary on the security footage when they're talking about what Vince is doing and what Vance is doing. I had to, rewind. It was like, who? Wait, who was tying his shoe?
You're the only one having trouble with that. I'm not having any trouble with Vince and Vance. I
have to, pause for a second. I'm like, wait, which one is Vance King? Vance is
the one that's played by Max and Kovu.
Yeah, Jason Marsden.
Yeah.
I keep on having to,
Vince has a voice that is very different than what I would have expected. I thought he'd have a Jersey accent or something like that. But he's really, he has a really chill voice. I didn't expect that.
So you thought that despite the way that Vance is in his voice, that his father would just be like a 1930s gangster, basically?
No, I expected him to be really, really gruff or something like that. But he sounds like an office worker, a really chill office worker.
Well, I mean, he is a loans officer.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't really picture the loans officer yeah, come on, give me your papers. I need to sort out. What's your credit score, by the way? You check Credit Karma?
69.
No, Carrie.
No, Carrie.
So
17.
All of a sudden, I thought we were going to get Penny's backstory and family. It sounded like she was talking about her dad, honestly.
I thought she was talking about her dad, too.
I thought her dad went out for cigarettes and never came back. But apparently it was that awful scumbag dirt guy, Devon.
So the first half of this episode I listened to on my way to school, and I onto like the college, and so that part I had to like where Penny said something and everyone's just like, what? I didn't hear it the first like 3 times, so I had to keep on rewinding it, and I missed it every single time. So I was just like, what's so shocking? I don't understand. And by the time I got to it, I was just like,
well, because I remember because Paul said that in this album we were going to find out more about Penny's backstory, and I think he said we would meet her family in person.
No, the part where she's just like, yeah, we don't have to end up together. Like, what if one of us runs away or something like that? And I was just like, and then everyone's just like, and she's like, but I don't really think it's necessary to talk about. And Wood's like, no, I think this needs to be addressed. And she's like, no, let's talk about something else. And then like the scene cuts basically, and I'm just like, what was that? And
okay, so now we get to the part you're talking about with Connie on the radio. And I had a huge revelation about Connie's character development in this.
In anticipation for a week. He told me about this a week ago, but I don't know what it is.
Okay,
He's been walking me
so first Connie starts, doing what she normally does. And I have to say, she really needs to stop using candid conversations as her, like, self-therapy sessions where she projects... Because she's always projecting... What I want to know
is how the show hasn't been canceled yet.
She's always projecting her own issues onto the guests and the discussion topics. It's almost surprising how many times this has happened now. Like, all the way back to, like, the decision when she's talking about, like, everyone knowing about Wit maybe going back to the Middle East.
But like, even I'm surprised people haven't called in and tried to get taken off the air. Like, especially in album 50 when she like accidentally insults like every single past resident on the show, and then they're all like, "I'm gonna go now." They all hang up on her. It's like, how has Wit not taken this off the air? It's probably like the most offensive thing Wit's End has ever created,
or the huge...
other than the Lights Out at Wit's End rap and the Imagination Station Miracle program. So
what about that one? I thought you meant like Run of the Mill Miracle with Grady. I was like, oh, you mean Touch of Healing. Yeah. Plus her huge emotional breakdown in the Inspiration Station. But anyway, so I was about to get really frustrated with the way Connie was saying stuff about the festival before I realized that she was just projecting about Penny and Wooten. So okay.
Until then.
Because I have to say, because we have often talked about, both on the podcast and in person, about Connie's character development and how it seems like she's never going anywhere. And it's like Eugene always gets all of these huge, like, oh, Eugene found his family and he got married and now he has Buck and he's like getting promoted to jobs and moving around the world and all these things. And Connie just kind of, and the show is always acknowledging the fact that Connie's always stuck in the same place over and over, and the writers have even said before, sometimes, not always, but the reason why they've tried to keep her in the same place is that they feel it'll like change her character and she won't be relatable if she gets married. But it's I've always thought that was ridiculous, right? I mean, for kids, for like young kids, they're going to be able to relate to like a 26-year-old single girl just as much as a 26-year-old dating or married girl, I would think. I don't think that would change anything. And they said the same thing about Eugene. He's been married for like a decade now, more than that. But anyway, so...
But you find Eugene relatable. You're not in a relationship.
Exactly. So, here is the way that this unfolded for me. So I was thinking, like, I really like this development with Connie, because I know it's a thread that we pulled on several times before, but given that Connie seems to be staying where she is relationship-wise and location-wise and job-wise for the time being, I started thinking about it, and it's like, it's nice that every time we pull on this string about Connie's feelings and not going anywhere with her life, or being stuck forever where she is, we kind of get new insights and developments about how she feels about it. And I realized that, come to think of it, I and many people have often complained about, like I said, the way that Connie's development seems stuck or stunted compared to others like Eugene. But when you think about it in terms of personal developments and insights and growth that get created by that, it's actually really realistic and relatable to older listeners, like to young adults and people older than that, older teenagers, young adults. Maybe I'm finally realizing, I think, what the writers have meant for so long when they said that they like Connie where she is because it lets listeners relate to her in a way that they couldn't otherwise if she was dating, married, for example. Because, like I said, I always thought that this was pretty silly, because surely it can't make that much difference to an 8 to 12-year-old if Connie's in a relationship or not in terms of how much they can empathize with her. But I'm just now realizing that that may not be what they meant. So many older teenagers and young adults have this constant sense that they toil through school and college and work, and life never seems to move forward. You're always stuck in the same place all the time and never actually getting anywhere. And depending on your age, all around us we see friends graduating and getting married and having kids, moving to different places, doing all sorts of things, and many people feel the sense of stagnation on any or all of those aspects. And I've realized that this relatability about Connie isn't that they can't relate to her, it's not about relating to the specific circumstances of her romantic or professional life, but it's about relating to the emotional journey she's gone through with reference to feeling stuck and stagnated where she is, seeking God's purpose in a world where it feels like she's the only one who isn't moving forward when everyone else is doing all these things, which is an incredibly relatable thing to many older teens and younger adults, and is something that would actually go away if she did start to make those huge concrete outward steps forward in all of those different areas. I think that we all are moving forward in different ways, I should say, but I think that it is that grass is always greener on the other side kind of thing, where we all feel like everyone else is doing all of these big things and moving forward in these ways when we're kind of just toiling away where we are stuck in place. And that's the way that Connie feels. And so, yeah, it's like Connie's growth is stunted because she doesn't move forward like Eugene, because he moves forward in a way that's conventional for a narrative series, like a TV drama. But, Connie being where she is for how long she is, it's very realistic and it hits close to home, because her going through those understandings of, I don't feel like I'm moving forward, so how do I deal with this emotionally and in planning my life, and what does God have for me, because I don't feel like I'm doing all these things when everyone else around me does. Because that's real life. It hits close to home, and I think that I'm just now truly and fully understanding Connie's character and direction for the first time.
All the writers are watching this and they're like, yeah, that's what we do.
Or they're like, finally.
Yeah.
Good job, Devon.
Either way. I agree. I like that. Good job.
Thank you. And then it creates this interesting writing juxtaposition then between Connie and Eugene, because Eugene has this development where he moves forward like a regular kind of character in a show, where it's like, oh yeah, all these things, I'm making steps forward and stuff,
Connie breaks the system.
Exactly.
With both her age and her development.
Eugene's getting these achievements unlocked in the game of life as he moves forward, and Connie seems like she's not, but she's actually being a lot more relatable, because she's actually developing not like a character for a show, but more like an actual real person. And so it's not that people couldn't relate to Connie in a relationship because they don't understand people in relationships. It's that they wouldn't be able to relate to her going through those senses of, those emotions of feeling like she's not moving anywhere. And that's the thing they don't want to lose people relating to.
Yeah, does
that all make sense and line up?
Yes, I understand completely. Can I just say, though, I really wish that she would get...
Oh, yeah, I do want to get with Jeff.
Because, this is album 58?
Yes, 9.
60,000. So, we've been like this for 59 albums. So, I think we get it now. So, we finally had this breakthrough. We just had this breakthrough, writers. Now we can move forward, now that we've had this.
For the second time this episode, I can say it only took 28 years for me to understand this. Okay.
You're not 28 years old.
Back to 28 years of episodes.
Yeah,
though.
I know.
Back to the bank part of stuff. In fairness to Eugene, if I had been working on computers all day and someone who's also working on them came up to me and said that they had zip, I would definitely instinctually think that they had found a zip file. That is definitely what I would think first before I thought that they meant
my first
zilch.
thought when Eugene said a zip file was, I know what that is, and I was so proud of myself because I had to make them when I was trying to put a ringtone on my phone after I first got my phone, and you helped me with that. So I was just like, Devon will be so proud of me that I know what this is.
Very good, Victoria.
Thank you.
Okay.
Connie's quick.
Yeah. So, at first I was like, oh no, Vance is gonna take the fall for his dad, isn't he? Like, as soon as he said that, I was like, no. I was
I was just like, classic trope, not again. And then I was just listening, I'm like, hold up. What just happened?
Yeah, I totally thought that Vance was going to get Pacifica'd, where he was scared enough of his dad that he would take the hit so his dad could get off free. But fortunately...
I hate that that's a verb.
Fortunately, it seems that I underestimated Vance's desire to screw over literally everyone before himself.
Heck yeah.
Selfishness wins the day again.
Except for I still think it's Vance.
Yeah, it still seems like it's like, no, there's more to this, definitely.
Because this was way too easy.
Yeah, it was way too easy.
It's like we still have... How many episodes
3.
left?
We're only halfway through the season.
4 episodes?
3 more.
No.
We're 3 and 3 left to go.
That's so sad.
I know, so short.
At least we still have the OAC.
Actually, in real time, the finale comes out today.
Darn it.
Halloween.
Oh, wait, you're talking about this album. I thought you were talking
Halloween.
about the OAC. I was thinking, it's not December yet.
No, it's not December. We're not that late on recording.
Yeah, we're almost caught up.
So, Wooten and Penny at, where else? Hal's Diner, again. I have no idea why it's...
What's this wit's end you speak of? I only know Hal's Diner.
When Jack came back for album 50, he was like, oh guys, you have to go to Hal's Diner, because wit's end, there's not a lot going on over there.
No, can we just, like, change the summary of Odyssey? It's like, Odyssey, a town where not much goes on. The only interesting place is Hal's Diner, owned by a man named Hal.
Jack probably colluded with Rusty Gordon on his book to tell him about how boring Odyssey... When Rusty was writing about, like, if a leaf fell on the mayor's hood of his car, it would make the headlines, because nothing ever happens at Wit's End. Co-written by Jack Davis.
Sponsored by Hal's Diner.
Yeah, sponsored by Hal's Diner. So, wow, there was a sex joke with the birds and the bees and how Penny got here thing. Didn't expect that.
That was so funny.
I thought I was like, wow, I'm surprised they were allowed to make that.
No, but that was so funny. It's like, you know how I got here, the birds and the bees, and Moon's like, oh, I've heard that talk before. Wait, no, I had. Can we have that talk? That made me laugh.
Well, I feel like if they do get married, that is probably a talk that they should have.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Devon comes in, screws things up. What's new? Marry us all over again.
I've already done that twice.
Marry us all over again. Story of my life. So yeah, and like you said, it is hilarious that I am Penny's past romantic interest, and Victoria Victoria Jameson of the Jameson Good Eatin' Cereals Company.
Give me those pictures of Spider-Man. Put them on a cereal box.
What if Ford is your father, Victoria?
What?
Because he's J. Jonah Jameson.
I'll be very disappointed in my father.
So, yeah, it's so funny that I'm Penny's past romantic interest and Victoria is Wooten's past romantic interest in Wooten.
I said it and I'll say it again. What does it mean?
This is such a good and emotional episode. It was so good. All Penny's, like, emotional stuff. I was like, yes! Get it!
I know that Penny's a really interesting character because she's kind of a blank slate character in a way.
It is interesting because she came on supposed to be a bad guy, turned into a good guy, and it's also interesting in terms of Wooten's relationships and faith because he had to leave Victoria because she wasn't a Christian, and yet when we first met Penny, she was part of, like, a pseudo-Christian cult, like,
I think he thought she was a Christian, but that's why Connie's like, I need to talk to you, and that's what I always thought.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, we'll talk later. I'm so happy I finally found someone I like who's a Christian. She's like,
Never. She just never told him. He still doesn't know.
She's part of a cult.
He still has no idea.
So I think it's interesting. The thing I've always thought about Penny is what makes her she kind of feels nostalgic, even though she hasn't been here very long, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I think that's because she's going through all the lessons that, like, people like Connie and Eugene went through during, like, the years before the hiatus, especially in, like, the Golden Audio series. But because she's new and we want to, like, reinforce these lessons for new listeners who won't listen to past episodes, she's kind of going through more or less the same thing. Like, we have Happy Hunting, where, like, that's just, like, Count All Joy, and we have all these other things. We have, what was that one? It was an OAC one, kind of like Solitary Refinement.
Oh, All by Myself.
Yeah, All by Myself, the one with the cricket. He's dead!
Praying mantis, Victoria, please.
Yeah, the praying mantis.
The most religious of all insects.
He's always praying. And so...
It's funny because I didn't find out until after that and check that it actually is praying mantis. I always figured, when I was little, I thought it was praying, and then I realized, it's probably like praying mantis, like they're going after prey.
I thought it was praying mantis until I listened to that episode. Then I realized I'd been wrong.
Praying,
I had an epiphany.
Like Our Father who art in heaven, which surprised me. I thought it was with an E.
So. Anyway, so it's interesting because you think you know so much about her, but then you get episodes like this, and you're like, I don't know anything about Penny.
Yeah,
I'm completely ignorant. This is really interesting. You're like, shouldn't I have known this? Oh, wait, no. Wait, what do I do know about Penny? I know, like, 3 things.
Yeah.
Like, she likes to paint. She works with Monsieur Andre and... Henri, whatever. And... Lavache! And... she is engaged to Wooten. And she's roommates with Connie, and she used to be part of a cult.
Yeah, I mean... I didn't really realize it until Paul was talking about the stuff that would happen in this album, and he kind of brought this up, and I realized, like... And I realized the same thing, too. I was like, because she feels really familiar, like, because she's been so densely around with the other adult characters who are, of course, all regulars.
She feels familiar because she's so comfortable being around everyone. She just kind of feels natural there.
Yeah.
And she feels familiar for the nostalgic value.
Yeah, but that's when I realized, like, the only things that we knew about her backstory were that she comes from Pennsylvania and that her parents or her mother owns a beauty salon.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it.
So, I can't wait to see what more Penny backstory stuff we finally get to learn about.
I want her parents to show up so bad.
Apparently they're going to. Allegedly. Ostensibly.
Yeah, well, apparently we were going to find out what Olivia went through in the Imagination Station. What Room of Consequence. What happened there? We didn't get to see the lesbian zombie apocalypse. Do you have any idea how bitter and salty I am about that?
I do, in fact, know how much so you are. Yeah, I know. I told you, right? Because it was like, this is Paul's last thing where he can make whatever wild promises he wants and then jump out the window since he's leaving Focus. So, you know, I was like, he can say
like
whatever he wants.
It's where, like, somebody's like, what do you think? And then the 3 people suggest things, except for it's just like, the first guy's like, hey, Paul, what are you gonna tell us before you leave? And one's just like, you're gonna tell us about what if Wit's gonna die? What about Penny? Like, what about Olivia in the Room of Consequence? And he's just like, sitting there, he's like, nah, not really. And then the one person's like, and then he like jumps out the window, he's not being thrown. He's like, latest seconds. And I don't know, I did this with my hands.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find an easy way to make one of those memes, and if so, I'll post it right now on the screen. And if not, then you were just looking at my hand, like, splattering forward, and you're just looking at us. But if so, you could pause it and read it, because we're funny! Last point, so Chris's wrap-up at the end of the episode had to do with the bank storyline only, which is interesting, which, like Victoria said, seems to be wrapped up for now. But
it's not.
But it doesn't seem...
If it's wrapped up right now, I'm going to be upset about that.
Yeah, it seems like...
It doesn't seem conclusive.
It seems more complicated, especially because the Vance stuff has to tie into the Buck stuff, too, still. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like Deputy Meltzner may have more other cases in the future.
I feel like that's just a device for just having more bank mysteries in the future. Not just mysteries in general, just bank mysteries.
And I'd like to point out, even though it wasn't the bank manager, it was an inside job again.
It was.
What?
I'm still suspicious of that tech guy. I still think it's him.
Cop. I feel like, though, after...
Maybe Andrew came back. Andrew, the janitor, from, like, that one episode. He's like, the bank heist didn't work the first time. Maybe it'll work the second time.
It's Mr. Dravel.
And he's like, but they'll probably figure out it's me right away because it's a bank heist and no one has.
Yeah. I feel like after the wrap-up of this episode, though, that it wouldn't make sense for it to be the, like, Detective Davidson. After he's like...
He's so shifty, though.
He's like, my family was all criminals in the past, but I've turned around.
Oh, yeah,
and
that line. That line, I heard it, I'm like, I don't believe you. And I was like, and if it is true, then I'm very proud of you and good job. But I'm not sure if I believe you.
My point, though, is that it feels really weird that this episode is called A Big Commitment. And there was, like, 2 halves to it. And one half was all the Penny Wooten stuff, which was all about commitment. And the other half was the bank storyline, which wasn't at all about commitment. But Chris's wrap-up...
What was the bank stuff even about?
Focused exclusively...
Like selling out your dad so you don't get in trouble?
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, or maybe it does. I think that was the gist of it.
Oh,
and that's what Chris's wrap-up was exclusively about, and had nothing to do with commitment, even though that's in the title of the episode. So I thought that was weird.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So now, because there have been so many, I figured I'd just make a short list, and there's probably more I'm forgetting, but the callbacks, so in these 3 episodes so far, the callbacks we've had to last season, so we have the Let's Get Together Festival still happening, Buck living with the Meltzerners, Buck is still repainting Wits End, Vance is being in trouble for the Perilous Pen stuff, Wooten and Penny in the proposal, Wooten's house burning down because of Hadley, and Eugene becoming a deputy, JK, but actually. So that's 7 things.
What about Buck being mad at Vance?
I think that might fit into... I don't know. Sure, 8. Why not?
Yeah, 8.
So, yeah.
Oh, Wit's still in the show.
Yeah.
So take off a point for that, because I'm pretty sure he died between seasons or something like that.
Okay, 7 again.
Yeah.
So,
Mrs. Kramer still.
Final thoughts and predictions and stuff for the future. What do you think's going to happen? I think the bank storyline's not over yet, obviously. I think Penny's
definitely not over yet.
I think Penny's family's going to show up. I still think she's going to say yes at the end of the season. I
would be very, very surprised if she did not say yes at the end of the season.
Yeah. But then at least she and Connie could commiserate over their love lives.
Yeah.
And being...
How about they're gonna have a wedding, and then all of a sudden Wooten gets kidnapped, but not really.
Yeah, and then he jilts Penny at the altar.
And then Penny says no, and then they have a not wedding.
And then Jared comes back to do like awful psychotherapy sessions on everyone.
Connie's just sitting there, and she's like, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And then it turns out that another couple's gonna get married instead. It's gonna be Connie and Jeff, because...
Okay, Victoria.
Just mash up all past wedding episodes, and then it turns out this entire season has been a story that someone's telling Jason.
Okay,
every
Victoria.
Single wedding episode in one.
Okay, I see where you're going with that now.
You get all the references?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Predictions, yeah. So the bank stuff isn't over yet, and Penny's going to say yes eventually. Her parents are probably going to show up. The Let's Get Together festival will eventually
I think we're going to
happen.
get more mentions of Devon.
Better. He's got to show up.
More sweetheart Wooten. Wooten was so sweet in this episode. In the scene at Hal's Diner, and obviously not Wits End, because what even is Wits End? Wits End doesn't exist anymore. It's dead to us.
What is it?
I love how as soon as we review Harley Returns, and we talk about the boring Wits End thing, after that it's all Hal's Diner.
I know, right? That was
like
that was the inception of another Oddcast meme right there.
Jack jinxed it for us. He ruined everything.
I mean, in fairness, it started before that. It started, before album 58 even, but that's when it got big. So, yeah, I think the Let's Get Together festival is eventually going to happen, and no queer people are going to go anywhere near it, because they branded it as, in support of traditional families, just to, make sure that gay people don't feel welcome.
Also, they probably all turned off the candid conversations thing at the very beginning as soon as Connie started to talk and didn't hear the end.
Because I'm sure they're all usually very avid listeners of Candid Conversations with Connie.
I bet no one actually listens to Candid Conversations. Like, I bet Connie's just like, oh yeah, I had 5 listeners today, and she's like so proud of herself. But like, one was Wit, it was a pity listen. One was somebody who accidentally like hit the button and they didn't realize it was playing because the volume was down really low. One was Eugene while he was working on something. One was Katrina while she felt bad. And
the other was just another radio in the workshop.
Other one was Jeff. Aww. He doesn't miss any.
Aw, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't nearly as sad as I thought you were going to make it. I thought you were going to say Wit just set up 5 radios in the basement and all tuned it to that.
Oh, no. Wit has like thousands of radios in the basement, and Connie's like, we had so many listeners today. And he's like, uh-huh.
Okay, rating, Victoria.
I'm going to say 4 out of 5. Because I really like what they're doing with Penny and Wooten, and it was like so sweet, the stuff. And of course, Hal's Diner, everyone's favorite family restaurant place.
And hangout location.
And hang out and
it's just a good place to talk, for characters to have conversations and move their storylines forward.
Yeah, and like Invention Emporium, that's my favorite thing about it.
Yeah, the huge Strataflyer out back and atrium.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, could you imagine if Hal's Diner was actually Wit's End from the animated series? Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
Could you imagine if, like, Hal, like, kidnapped everyone?
Well, because, it's named after Hal Smith, after all.
Yeah, Hal actually turns out to be, like, the dad in the animated series.
With an eclair for a nose, that one.
Yeah, and, like, his kids are Dylan and the other one, and he's like, they're not allowed to go to Wit's End because it's the competition, so they kidnap the characters and erase their memories and stuff.
That's why they stole Wit's dog, because they're like, we need to, like, use invention.
They're like, Wit has a dog, right? Yeah, I think he has a dog. Grab a dog.
They're like, we need to use an invention to, like, scan the memories of the dog, all the secrets it's seen inside Wit's End.
Oh my god.
Headcanon video.
So much.
Okay, rating. Well, you gave your rating. I need to give my rating.
Yeah, do it. I really liked Vance in this episode.
This was a really good episode. It covered the things I want to. I finally appeared in an episode, which is automatically like amazing. Shout out to my name, finally.
Wow.
This
isn't the Devon Show, it's Devon Show, it's not yours.
Tune on here, this is the Devon Show.
Ha ha ha, Jess Harnell laugh.
We need to do Blood, Sweat, and Fears for a review. I love that episode.
Oh my gosh, that episode. Except for I can't hear the word needles now without flipping out or picture them because of Life is Strange and I have to cover my neck.
I'm going to give this episode 4.5. It was very good. We got, like, really big character development for Penny, and all the stuff about Connie, which was really good, and I had all these revelations, which don't necessarily pertain to this episode specifically, so I shouldn't give marks for that in particular, but the other stuff with Penny too, or with Connie, just the fact that we got that, talking about those things, is really good. We got both these storylines, Vince and Vance, is confusing, but all that stuff, and yeah.
Okay, I don't know if it's just me. Okay, I feel like I should make my rating higher. 4.5. Is it just me? Or has Odyssey been really, really on point lately?
This album so far is fantastic. I've loved these last 3 episodes so much.
Like, especially like this and the OAC. Like, the first season of the OAC was kind of like, but this season of the OAC is so good.
Yeah, things have been going
everyone subscribe.
Well. I feel so much better after all of the bad feelings I had about so much of The Ties That Bind. And so now coming onto this, it's like things are so good. I'm so happy.
Your only hold up is that traditional family thing. That's a bit of a hold up for me. What?
With this album, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
just the continuity between that.
Yeah, the fact that they kind of changed it, because it felt like the last season, at the end, when Whit was talking to Miss Adelaide, and the whole thing was like, okay, you were trying to create this and make it like a Pride Festival, but we don't have to do that. And Whit was all like, yeah, we can compromise and try and understand each other. So I'm like, okay, so they're just going to make a festival for families, and it'll just be like a town.
But it's like, we'll compromise and understand each other by doing my idea completely and ignoring yours.
Yeah, we'll make a town festival which is available for everyone, and it's not pushing an agenda one way or the other, and so I'll just completely ignore your ideas and shut you out. You're not even going to appear in this album so that you can't argue against me.
Okay, what's that, Nicholas? Okay, I remember. What do you want to say? Because of Mrs. Adelaide her opinions, they Wickermanned her.
They trapped her in a bee cage?
Yeah, they like trapped her in a cage and then they set it on fire.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why she hasn't shown up yet.
That would make sense. The bees.
Or maybe she was
the bees. They're
sleeping for a really long time, and then she woke up, and then she's like, after the festival is over, she's like, what did you guys do? We had an agreement. What the heck? And then they're like, oh, sorry, we can't hear you. And then like on the phone, they're like crinkling something, and they're like, I'm sorry, the connection's really bad. She's like, no.
Now, Whit is going to cause her to turn into a supervillain, and it is 100% his fault. Good job, Whit. Okay, so that's the end of the stuff for this episode, because we've been talking for 40 minutes now. All right, so next episode is Dinner Role Models.
Is this the end of this episode?
What?
I thought this was the first
No,
half.
I mean, next we're doing our review of Dinner Role Models. So
that makes sense. I'm hungry right now, so that's making me even more hungry.
Good. So we'll turn y'all over to that right now. And here we are now with our review of episode 780, Dinner Role Models, written by Paul McCusker. What happens in this episode, Victoria?
So in this episode, Olivia comes in once again, talking big game. She's like, we're gonna be the best. And then her parents are like,
no one ever was.
Yeah, they're like, no, don't do that. And she's like, too bad. And then everyone else joins in. Camilla's like, we're gonna be the best. And Matthew's like, I'm gonna make Buck feel uncomfortable when he's around us. And then Buck comes over for dinner, and I was like, no, Camilla, I thought you got over him, but apparently not. And so Buck's all like, oh yeah, I'm with Vance. Or I'm not with Vance, I'm with Vance's gang, because I want to be a good influence. I'm like, I don't believe you, what are you up to? And then Penny and Wooten come over, and Wooten is now working in Wits End, doing his all his cartoons, comics there, whatever he does.
Whatever Wooten
does. They've never talked about it before. And Penny is not allowed.
Remember?
Yeah, Penny's not allowed to be involved in the creative process, so she gets snippy at Wooten, and then they realize they might not be on the same spiritual level. So right now, the wedding looks like it's off, and then the episode ends.
Yes.
And I was like, you cannot end the episode there. And then, like, it cuts out, and Wooten's like, I don't think we're getting married, Whit. And then I'm just like, okay, next scene. And then it just, like, cuts out, and I was like, what was that? And then Chris is like, hi, guys! I'm like, no! You don't be happy! You be upset! What is this? I'm like, I know it's probably going to be resolved in the next episode, but I don't care. It'll probably
be the finale, because there's two more.
But can Chris please just sound a little upset? And I'm like, of all the episodes you can be happy
Chris
in.
Bringing it down a bit. Hi
guys.
This is Chris. Being serious right now.
I love Chris, but I wish they just got her to be a little more solemn on the outro for this episode. Rather than happy. And it's like, well, looks like they're not going to end up together. And I'm like, no. No, that was the biggest problem I had with this episode, honestly.
Alright, so dinner role models obviously has to do with being role models and with having dinner, because it's a pun.
I think yeah. I can't remember if I got that or not, but I forgot about it.
I think you did.
Yeah, I did. Well,
because it's dinner role and role models.
Yeah, I feel stupid
right now.
Okay, so
this episode mainly focuses around Buck and Wooten and Penny all coming over to the Parkers for dinner, and the Parkers are trying as hard as they can to be the perfect family. And
their parents aren't.
That's true.
Just the
It actually reminded me a lot of Family Values, oddly enough, of the Rathbones.
It reminded me of Sunday Morning Scramble a little bit in some ways. Yeah. And I was thinking, like, there's another episode about role models too, but I can't think of it, and it was totally Family
Thematically,
Values.
I thought a lot about Family Values because, you know, the Rathbones were trying to, you know, act like the perfect family, but just by putting on an act without putting in the actual effort and being real about who they were, which is terrible people.
Yeah.
And
then you have the Johnsons who are
literally like
honest.
Mary Sue family.
Yeah,
like...
they are. Yeah, they are. And then I think that was like one of the first episodes of Sam. Too.
Yeah,
and then you get like more episodes of Sam, and you're like, you're not perfect.
There were a fair number of episodes of Sam, and we knew he wasn't perfect. But the rest of his family, that was the first time we saw any of the rest of his family.
I know, and the daughter in the family were just like,
and Kelly,
we are Jesus' creations. We are perfect.
The Stepford wife family, but it's not a review of that episode. This is a review of Dinner Role Models.
You have such a way with words.
Thank you. So I'm really glad that this episode is a direct outgrowth of the Parker family's development from The Ties That Bind, because we had this talk about, you know, we need to be a better family and trying to resolve certain conflicts, and they even had specific reference to things in The Ties That Bind about...
how many references there were in this episode.
There were so many.
It was so great. Like when Wooten was having some issues, he was like, and he was talking to Wit, like, I've been in relationships before where I'm like, not on the same page. And then I'm just like, he's talking about Victoria. And then he's just like, well, you could talk to Connie. I'm like, they're talking about Jeff.
And then Eugene and Katrina.
And then he's like, Eugene and Katrina. I'm like, they're talking about Eugene and Katrina.
Shout out to all of these things. And to the one obscure line from First Love where Wit also dealt with this apparently in college that we've never heard about.
Yeah, and I was like thinking... about like, man, a lot of the relationships in this series.
Well, I've said it before, with
characters who weren't Christians, characters who were.
Yeah, I've said almost every character in the series has dealt with this before.
And, like, in all honesty, Wooten and Penny's relationship is reminding me so much of Eugene and Katrina's relationship. And just, like, their growth through all of this. And if this weren't basically an arc about, like, these past couple albums and the future ones, about Wooten and Penny getting together, I would think they would make it a bit more like Eugene and Katrina and just have episodes scattered here and there. And then in a couple albums they would get married. But I don't know how the album's going to end.
Maybe
Devon knows how the album's going to end because he saw spoilers. I don't know what's going to happen.
Maybe Wooten and Penny will have to flee the country and then we'll have to have them get married by piecing together past clips of them.
Wooten's dad's going to die and we're finally going to get to meet him.
Or not, because he'll be dead.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah,
and then Wooten, he'll be like, Wooten, come to my bedside. It's like, Dad, do you want to say you always love me? And he's like, no, and then he dies. And then everyone just, like, starts crying, and I'm like, you're such a terrible person.
That's exactly what's going to happen. So yeah, like Victoria was saying, despite my not good feelings about certain parts of The Ties That Bind, it's really exciting to see how interconnected the show has become lately. And it's not just a bunch of references to things, but... because even when things aren't necessarily... like a strict saga or an arc, there's still like so much interconnections and the stories are being woven across multiple episodes instead of being like neat little parcels and everything's just so tied together. And I realized it's probably a result of the OAC now, because the OAC is a place for all of these standalone episodes and slice of life ones and kids radio things all end up in the OAC, which leaves room in the regular public albums for these interconnected stories and to weave a lot more of a, you know, a woven tapestry of a narrative.
That's kind of like a series I just finished. Like, the entire thing is a linear plot, and everything ties into everything else, and I just got some books from the series, and they're all slice of life, because there's no slice of life in the series. Everything has a purpose, and I really like that. But I kind of feel like the show is more interconnected nowadays than it was before the hiatus.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's just these last couple albums, and that's when I realized it's since the OAC started, because the OAC started in conjunction with album 58 coming out. So that could be why, though this isn't like an arc saga kind of album, we're still getting, you know, all the storylines with Buck and Vance's gang, and, you know, the bank stuff, and Eugene and Katrina is all weaving together, the Let's Get Together, all these things. Even though it's not a solid arc thing, because it's just, you know, that's how things seem to be going now.
Yeah, I feel like everything was, like, woven together, but loosely in the first, like, 50 albums, and then after the hiatus, it was just like, what is this? And now it's just, like, so neat.
Hopefully that's not just because this was another album where Paul wrote the entire thing.
If
and
so,
then now
Paul, right? Every single.
And now he's gone, and this will be the last stuff we get from him. So hopefully we'll continue to get this style of arc.
He left a lot of stuff saying like wrap it up this way.
Yeah. But those are still only like points. Those aren't full episodes.
I know.
Okay, so
but I trust the other writers. And can I just talk about Jay really quick? Because I was like, they mentioned Jay, and I was like, yeah, Jay. And then Matthew's like, he's gone to Hollywood to be part in that zombie thing. And I'm like, I thought they kicked him out of it. What is this continuity?
I found out about this a long time ago, and I was like, oh, Victoria, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I know. And so then I was like, he better be back soon. He's gonna be back soon, right? Or
well,
they didn't get rid of. They didn't get rid of Wit.
What it sounds like then, because I've been holding on to the spoiler for a long time, that Jay went to Hollywood because of Family Survivor and stuff. So I'm hoping and praying that this is a temporary thing and we haven't lost one of our fave current characters right as his development was finally starting to blossom.
I'm so upset.
I knew about this when we did not 30 Jay's Past September. I don't think I knew about it back then, but I knew about it while we were during lots of discussions that we've had about like Jay's character development is finally starting to break into like this whole new stage. Is that why
you kept on saying like hopefully it doesn't stop and stuff like that? I'm like, it's not gonna stop.
Because I was like, and now he's going to. So the way they talked about
it's bad enough that they just got rid of one member of my bro TP. I don't want them to get rid of the other one.
The way they talked about it, it made it sound like they were like, Jay will come back unless he doesn't. So I'm guessing that Whit Hertford is currently unavailable for a while, and they really want to bring him back. And so it's like up in the air whether or not Jay will return to the show. That's what it sounds like, because they're like, maybe he'll come back, maybe he won't. So I'm guessing they're covering their bases in canon for either possibility of what happens, and we'll just have to hope and pray that Jay makes it back, because he needs to come back.
Is that the spoiler you keep on mentioning?
Not the end of the album one. I've known about this for so much longer, and I'm so glad I can finally talk about it. Someone also posted it in a comment a couple of videos ago, and I'm really glad that you didn't see it. They're like, after that line in Dinner Role Models about Jay moving to Hollywood, and I was like, it is true, darn it.
I really want Jay's parents to appear. They're like always teasing us by mentioning them all the time, but I really want to meet. Right? Yeah, I really, really want to meet his parents because his parents sound so great. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but his mom sounds so sweet. Like, she sounds like the sweetest person. And his dad sounds like a really, really good dad. Like, they sound like great parents. And I want them to appear on the show really badly. I want to see what it looks like when Jay interacts with his parents, because as we've talked about previously, he's the type of person whose personality changes depending on who he's interacting with.
Also known as literally everyone, but especially in Jay.
But especially Jay. Like, I see it more in Jay than I do in other characters in the series.
So, Victoria and I were talking about this the other day, like, because I knew the premise of this episode was Buck having dinner with the Parkers. And
we were talking about this in Disneyland. I was yelling about this on the street.
And it's like, Buck has dinner with the Parkers to see what a real family's like. And we were like, Buck, you have a family. Eugene and Katrina are your family. But when I listened to it, and they're talking about, he's coming over so Eugene and Katrina can have a date night by themselves. I was like, okay.
To it the other day.
Okay,
I was
that's
like
acceptable.
Talking to Devon on the street. I wasn't talking, I was yelling. We were walking down the streets of Tomorrowland a couple days ago, and I was just like, and they were like, Buck, come over so you can see what a real family looks like. I'm like, you have a real family! You're in a family! You were adopted! Your parents are named Eugene and Katrina! Darn it, Buck! And then I listened to it again yesterday morning, and then they're like, oh, they're on a date night. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I hope they have fun. And then I'm like, well, I was wrong.
So I was seriously bummed out at the knowledge that it was confirmed that Wooten's grandpa's chair was destroyed in the fire.
I called that, though.
You mentioned it.
I called that. And then when they confirmed it, I was so heartbroken. But then Jason's like, I got you a new one. And I'm like, that's really, really, really sweet. But it's not the same, but it's still really sweet.
I know, you mentioned it after Wooten's house burned down, and we were so bummed about that. I was really surprised they mentioned it, because that was 19 albums ago.
I know, when they mentioned it, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sad, but it was so nice of Jason, and the continuity is amazing, and I'm so glad they mentioned it, but I'm so sad it was 19 albums ago.
And then Wooten's lying about how my dad didn't want me to know where he lived when I was 4.
My heart.
When I was 4, and I was like, ouch. Everyone around the table's like,
I just imagine, like, Buck's face, and he's just like, this is even awkward for me.
Yeah, I thought my life was bad. Speaking of which, that was a really nice prayer that he gave, even though it was courtesy of Jebediah Skint.
Like, when I heard that part, I was, like, sitting there, and I was like, my child is praying. Oh my gosh. And I almost messaged Devon about it. I'm like, Devon, Buck is praying. I'm so emotional right now. But Devon hadn't listened to the episode yet, so I didn't.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And I just love Ava's line. That made me laugh so hard. When Buck's like, oh no, he told us that so we could calm people. And then she's just like, that's... I thought she was going to say, like, interesting or something like that. And you're, like, really kind.
Terrible. I was like, okay.
Laughing so hard. I'm like, well, I'm glad you're honest about your real feelings.
No beating around the bush with
that
Ava
was
Parker.
So funny, though. I love Ava so much. I think out of, like, all the families that they've had in Odyssey, like, you know how we talked about how the dad's usually more developed?
Yeah.
And I usually like the dad character more than the wife. Because
they don't give them a lot of stuff.
Yeah, because they don't give them that much stuff.
They never appear in episodes apart from, like, the whole family thing.
I love Ava. I like her more than David. Like, she is so great. She's an awesome mom.
She is a great character, and I'm so happy she's around. And that
I love how blunt she is.
And I love that she gets to be in so much other stuff, not just part of the Parker family, but as an individual human being.
Yeah.
As, you know, as a nurse and the other stuff that she does.
The only, like, George Barkley got a lot of stuff on his own.
Yeah.
But I feel like...
Ed Washington got some stuff on his own because of Connell's wits and Connell's.
Yeah, but he didn't get, like, that much. I feel like George Barkley and, like...
Dale Jacobs,
thank you, got the most stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like Ava actually has the potential to get more than George. Because, like, she's a nurse and she's in the missionary episodes and stuff.
Well, I mean, the thing with George is he got an entire arc centered around him, which is the thing. So if something like that happens with Ava, then sure, yeah.
I mean, like, episodes with only her and none of the rest of her family. Because lots of the time when we got episodes with without Mary and Donna, Jimmy was usually in them. Mm-hmm. But we had, like, For Whom the Wedding Bells Toll when George was the only one in the Parker family. Yeah. Or in the Barkley family.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Parker. They're all related. Ah!
Conspiracy.
Plot twist.
Conspiracy.
Ah!
Okay, so I think it's really interesting thinking about the spiritual discrepancies between Penny and Wooten. Before I talk about that, actually, I should talk about the comic thing that you brought up earlier. Like, Penny feeling slighted because... Wooten was like, I need some space. And I think that's really important to talk about in relationships because people do need space. They can't do everything together all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I didn't think Wooten was in the wrong.
No, he absolutely wasn't. Becoming overly dependent on a partner in any relationship, romantic or platonic, is going to lead you down the road to, like, you know, toxic things in your relationship. Mm-hmm. Where, you know, you can't, because you need to remain an individual even while you're still in a relationship. You cannot, you know, build your whole life up on that person because relationships aren't about building your lives on each other. They're about building your lives on God concurrently. And so, yeah, you need to realize and recognize that, you know, people need their space and they need to have things in relations with different people. And so I thought it was, you know, this really important thing to show, like, you know, Wooten needs to have things apart from Penny. They can't be together 24/7. That's not healthy. And that, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. So that was good.
Can I just say, I feel like Penny doesn't want to be in this relationship. Because every single time a small thing happens, she, like, kind of takes it out of proportion and she really nitpicks at it. I understand that this is, like, a really big thing for her. But... Yeah. I feel like she's kind of over-exaggerating.
Well, I mean, she as a character, I mean, I don't know. She may even have, like, paranoid personality disorder.
Maybe.
Like,
I don't think it helps considering, like, who she worked with and stuff like that.
Between her past with Dr. Trask.
Also, she was in a cult at one point.
Yeah, between her past with Dr. Trask, her relationship with that scumbag Devon, and everything else that's happened to her with her, you know, her relationship with her parents that we haven't explored a whole lot yet, like, you know, she has a lot of trust issues around people and around relationships. So it makes sense that she's the one to be raising all these red flags every step of the way because she wants to be sure, she wants to be careful because she doesn't want those things to happen again. And yeah, there is probably a degree of irrationality to it, of like borderline paranoia. And I mean, we saw that most in, was it A Penny Earned or It was Childish Things, right?
Yeah, Childish Things, where she was interpreting everyone's body language the wrong way.
And she was all scared about Jacques-Henri.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, comparing that to now, And when she's talking about, how do we trust people after Dr. Trask, I think she has moved forward and developed in that since then. So it is
I'm not
forward
trying,
character
I don't know if
development.
I'm being mean in saying that. Like, I don't mean to be mean. I do like her as a character.
It is a good thing to point out.
Yeah.
Because it's
I just feel like someone should point it out.
Yes.
Because, I don't know, I feel like she has a lot of issues moving forward with this relationship.
It is definitely, she's getting better with it. But it's a definite trend that she is the one who's always like, we need to make sure, we need to deal with this, we need to make sure it's okay because I'm not sure this will work, so we need to work through this.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, it's conducive to the idea of the arc of this album, which is, delving into their relationship and the dynamics of that. So, coming back to what I was saying before, I think it's really interesting talking about the spiritual discrepancies between Penny and Wooten, because that, as a concept, is obviously overwhelmingly important in a relationship. And it's something that we've seen between them for a long time, and it's gone unmentioned, like, the differences between them spiritually, and it roots all the way back to, like you were just saying, Penny's introduction when she was part of the cult of Trask. Mm-hmm. And right off the bat, it was like, she calls herself a Christian, but there's all these weird things because she was part of this cult. And so now, for so long we've seen her trying to learn and grow spiritually and these differences she's had from everyone else. So it's nice to finally kind of see that being addressed, how that's still affecting her now, because we haven't talked about that in a long time.
As we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, there's a lot of different relationships in the series that deal with, like, differences in where people are in their spirituality. Like, with Connie and Jeff, we had someone who was a Christian wasn't. That was the same case with Eugene and Katrina at the beginning of their relationship, but then soon after Eugene became a Christian, and since they both had recently become Christians, they were kind of on the same level and grew together.
But there were also still differences because Katrina had been longer.
Yeah.
Signed, Sealed, and Committed was a huge thing for that, looking at different types of relationships with people who are Christians.
Yeah, I feel like this whole arc is, like, kind of a drawn out, but not in a bad way, different aspects of For Whom the Wedding Bells Toll.
Yeah.
But I feel like this subject, like differences in spirituality, is being handled differently aside from, like, differently than any other way it's been handled before in this one, because here's Penny and here's Wooten, and they've both been Christians for a long time, but they're still on different levels. And
Penny hasn't been Christian for a really long time.
She's been a Christian longer than Eugene or Katrina had at that point.
That's fair.
So I feel like it's a different way of looking at it than the other ones have, and I really like that.
Yeah,
that it's not just, like, the same thing, basically.
I was really impressed with, like, that bit about, like, not everyone is comfortable praying out loud in public situations like that, and, there's not anything wrong with that, and you have to respect the different places that people are with that and not force them into places they're not comfortable with spiritually.
I like that too, because
I'm not
that comfortable praying in public, and I know a lot of people who aren't
David was
either.
like, sorry, I should have asked for your permission before calling you out like that.
I was like, that was cool of you, David.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
Yeah. I just really love the Parker parents.
After that abrupt end to the episode, because this album is an absolute tapestry, like I said before, storylines.
They went nowhere with Buck. I was like, they're going to go somewhere with Buck. They're going to get things explained. And then Buck's just, like, saying the same thing. And I'm like, you said that, like, 2 episodes ago. I don't know anything else about what's going on. Like, if the purpose was to just leave us in the dark and annoy us, congratulations. But, like... I still feel like it was good that he was in this because it shows that other people have noticed there's been a change in him.
That's true.
And they're actually, like, bringing it up and they're acknowledging it.
And it's nice just to have Buck in neutral things that don't have to be, like, blah, 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 all the time moving forward with this stuff. Is, Buck can just be part of slice of life things, just normal, just Buck being
I want
around.
that fishing trip episode.
So, yeah, after the...
Don't make that noise.
After...
You must.
Like you were saying before, so after the proposal at the end of Ties That Bind, we criticized it a lot about how out of left field it seemed for Penny and Wooten's relationship to suddenly try and jump forward so suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
And we hoped that we would get appropriate time and discussion and development to delve into that, but I never imagined that we would get, like, an entire album
it'd be so extensive.
devoted to slowly pouring through it detail by detail. And it's been so great, honestly, to actually see this detailed study of their conflicts and this exploration of their romantic relationship together, and learn like different types of compatibility and problems in relationships, because we've, like you said, it's something that we've touched on before in Odyssey with many characters, but it's usually the same kind of thing or different sorts of things. We've covered basically one topic about relationships in a whole bunch of different ways, which is, are these people right for each other because of their faith and their faith being compatible. This is the first time we've looked at relationships, really, and a whole bunch of other different things about, expectations and conflict, about commitment to each other and things like that, and looked at these different other relationships of aspects of relationships like that. So it's super, super cool. We are 2/3 of the way through this album now, and I'm absolutely loving Taking the Plunge. It's a phenomenal album so far.
I'm wondering, I guess it wouldn't really be different if it was 12 episodes. It would still be the same thing.
Yeah.
Did Paul write the next one too? Or...
I don't believe so.
Okay. There's one more thing I want to mention. Oh yeah, I also like how the Parker family has changed.
Yeah.
And how, like, they're acknowledging that and, like, weaving it in while they weave in everything else. And, yeah, I kind of question their choice to have Penny and Wooten over for dinner, and during dinner in front of everyone else, ask them about.
Well, yeah, I think
stuff,
it was more Penny brought it up during dinner than they tried to do that. Because
she
brought it up and they were like, we can talk about this later.
I'm so glad they said that. They were like, oh, we'll talk about this after, because I thought it was going to, like, grow into, like, this big thing at dinner, and I was like, this is going to be so awkward.
Yeah,
but
talk about a vicariously embarrassing dinner to listen to, like, secondhand embarrassment, as they're all, like, fighting and trying to be like, yeah, let's be good for Buck and stuff, as they're arguing with each other, and I'm like...
I'm pretty sure Buck could hear them say all of that. Like, I'm pretty sure he was just sitting there, and he's just, like, moving back and forth. He's like, it's almost done. It's almost done. Mr. Eugene, Miss Katrina are going to pick me up any minute. Oh, please, let this hurry up.
And Eugene and Katrina are just, like, sitting back and sipping cocktails, like, oh, this is so nice to have a date
They're like,
by ourselves.
I hope Buck's having a good time. And it just cuts to Buck, like, internally screaming. And
also, the mental image of Eugene sipping a cocktail is...
I can't imagine that. I can imagine him shoving, like, sandwiches in his mouth, like...
Yeah, apparently.
From, like,
it's the animated series.
But...
Alright, so, final thoughts on this episode, Victoria.
I ranted a lot during this episode. Sorry about that.
That was good.
But I liked it, so... Not the ranting, the episode. Well, I mean, the ranting was fun. I like screaming at you guys. So, I enjoyed this episode. I like where they are taking lots of the characters. I love all the development and the references and everything. It's all so good. I kind of wish they did a bit more with Buck in this episode, but at least they acknowledge certain things about his arc, too.
Yeah.
Which is better than not acknowledging it at all,
Mm-hmm.
because that would be the worst. So rock on, Paul. You're the best. And I'm going to give it a 3.75 out of 5.
Really? That's it?
No.
Alright.
Yeah.
We're going to call it 3.8 then? I think we usually use 1 decimal point.
I've used 2 before.
We'll call that a 3.8.
3.8, fine. But, like, in comparison with the other episodes in the album, I feel like this one is probably the weakest one so far. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, though.
It's just really
the other...
Album.
Yeah, the album has been really strong, so I'm just basing it on the comparison between episodes. But, like, Wooten and Penny in this episode get a 5 out of 5, in my opinion.
I think I'll give this one, like, 4.6.
Maybe that's high.
Yeah, I really like this episode. And, yeah, like you said, the other ones have been really good, too, maybe better, but we're not scaling it to the album. We're scaling to all episodes of Adventures in Odyssey.
Like, the first time, I think I was kind of bored when I listened to it the first time, and that kind of has to do with it. But, like, yesterday when I listened to it, I was like, this is way better than I remember. So I'm just kind of, like, balancing it out in my mind.
So, yeah, for all the reasons I said, you know, it's been so great, this album as a whole, getting all this interweaving of storylines together. Even though we didn't get kind of more stuff with Buck, like Victoria said, it's good to see that other people and other story arcs are acknowledging it. Because that's always the great thing. That's one of the great things about Novacom and Blackburn, these big arcs, is it's not just this straight packed thing all the way through, even though Novacom was at the end, and so was Darkness Before Dawn. But things in these arcs are spread out, and so even when you have an episode that focuses on something other than the arc, there's still mentions to the fact that it's going on. You know, we realize that this is actually a dynamic world where things are crossing over, and other people, even though we're not focusing on Buck right now, we're still acknowledging these things are happening to Buck, and that these are actual people who are interacting with each other across, you know, the different things that are going on.
I like how the episode happened in, like, such a condensed timeline, basically. Like, it basically all happened in one night. I will say the biggest reason for my lower mark is I'm not that interested in the Parker family arc right now. Like, it's a good lesson, though. I liked the moral in this episode.
I would call
I'm just not as interested in the
Parker's development is less of an
stuff.
arc, and I mean it's changing. There's development, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of like, it's not like an arc is like, ooh, things going like that. But theirs is just more like a gradual shift in things over time as they learn lessons.
I feel like we got a lot of Parker stuff in Ties That Bind.
Oh, we didn't get a lot.
Well, they did to, like,
There was an arc.
end.
There was an arc about them, but it wasn't like.
But I feel like
Definitely wasn't one of the bigger.
part of my
ones.
brain's just like, okay, I'm good with the Parkers for right now. Like,
I don't know if you've
let's-
noticed this over the last 9
do it.
albums, but the Parkers are generally around a lot, Victoria.
What?
So, yeah, and this episode was one where it just really struck me just how much Penny and Wooten's development has been amazing and just multifaceted, and all the time we're continually seeing new conflicts and new types of things to delve into the idea of a relationship and what are different ways it can go wrong, what are different ways it can go right, and it's just the most in-depth examination we've ever had of that before on the show, and it's phenomenal. I'm so happy about it. It's great.
And I cannot stress enough how much I love the use of Ava and David as, like, marriage counselors.
Yeah, exactly. It's been so great because, yeah, that's been a thing. Is not just Penny and Wooten, but Penny and Wooten as they're doing stuff with Ava and David. And we've also had Buck partially in conjunction with the Park kids trying to figure out what's going on with him and help him. And so the fact that we're able to take those two lines and connect them at their point of intersection, which is the Parkers, was a great way to kind of bring these lines together into a
Camilla still has a crush
pretty straightforward episode. Yes.
Like, when she said, I invited Buck over for dinner, I was like, ugh.
She and maybe Olivia too. I mean, they were both like fighting over him.
Yeah,
basically.
I think Olivia was just trying to be impressive. But maybe.
I don't think it's not like Camilla as much.
I don't really think
but
Olivia
I think there's
likes
still
him.
Probably some aspect
I
of
mean,
that,
I
maybe.
think Olivia likes him as a person. Maybe she thinks he's a little cute, but I don't think she has a crush on him.
I don't think it's anywhere near like Camilla's, where it's more of like this overt puppy dog kind of thing.
Yeah. I was gonna say something. Oh, yeah.
Or Emily in 53.
So, like, the only really big thing throughout Odyssey, like, in Odyssey I can think of where there was, like, a marriage counselor situation was with Eugene and Katrina and George, and that was before they were actually married. So, I mean, this is still before they're actually married, but the thing with George was it was just him. It wasn't him and Mary. It was just
him as a pastor.
And this, we have, like, Ava and David just as
like,
themselves.
Passing on their sagely, elderly wisdom.
And so, like, not only is it, like, not just one of them, it's both of them. So you get both of their opinions and their inputs and stuff like that. And I feel like people who aren't Christians and listen to the show would be able to relate to that better, possibly, than George's counsel and advice.
Yeah.
And I really, really like that.
Yeah, so
I feel like it's more universal.
4.6 for me, 3.8 for Victoria. Long story short, this album is amazing so far. Everything's good. I'm so happy with it. What are we doing next time, Victoria?
The next 2 episodes. No, we aren't. Don't believe me. What are we doing?
We are doing Walter's Flying Bus, the October OAC episode.
I have hair in my face. Blech.
And since it's October, we will also be doing...
What are we going to do about Halloween?
Yes.
No, really, what? That wasn't the episode, I was just asking.
What a long title to have to put in the title of the video.
Just put Halloween ?
I'm tempted to try and shorten it just like that. I did that for Pinocchio, since it was a subtitle after Pinocchio. We'll see. You guys probably don't care, honestly, so we don't need to have this discussion right now.
We'll just put, like, 3 questions marks, and people will be like, ooh, what's this?
Halloween.
Just click
what?
on it.
Bees?
Halloween? What is this? I want to find out.
That is what we're doing next time, and then after that, the episode right after that, we will be finishing up Album 59, Taking the Plunge, with our reviews of Out of the Woods, Let's Get Together, and our overall review of Album 59.
Well, now that we're done this, I'm going to go listen to Out of the Woods and see if it is a musical parody.
So, that's all for now. That's what's coming up next. Thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. I've been Devon Francis, also known as Leonard Melsner.
And I've been sitting next to him.
And you've been watching The Adventures in Odyssey
Oddcast. Darn it! I messed it up! Darn it!
Goodbye.